Welcome to Transformative Principal, where I help you stop putting out fires and start leading. I'm your host, Jethro Jones. You can follow me on Twitter at Jethro Jones. Welcome to Transformative Principal. Today, I am super excited to have Ross Purdy on the program. He is the Dean of Students at the Fay School in Houston, Texas. And I actually went down there and visited them, which was so amazing. You can go back and look at episode 471 for that, where I talked about that, and then episode 485, where I talked with Melissa Sherman herself, who's the principal there. So, Ross, welcome to Transformative Principal. Excited to have you.
Hi, Jethro. I am excited to be here and very honored. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, well, it is a pleasure to chat with you. When we were down there, Melissa said something about you that I thought was just amazing, which is that because you're the Dean of Students, you mainly deal with discipline, correct?
That is one component of my job description. Yes.
There's a lot more that you do, but that is a big part of it. And she said that what you were so good at is building relationships with kids so that when you had to have difficult, discipline-focused conversations with them, that it wasn't destroying them or destroying the relationship, and that you had this way about you of talking with them in a way that made them change their behavior and improve, but like you even more. Is that a fair summary of your skill set?
Well, I mean, obviously her words, I really, really appreciate that. And that's very humbling to hear. That's my goal. That's my goal is to really, I found kind of in my history with walking with students in this role is to, how can I best grab their heart first, in hopes that when we potentially have to have some difficult conversations with the student, not only with the student, but also too with the parents, that they know that there's a trust that's already been established. There's already been a connection that's been established. And so that those conversations will not be as intense because of the end result is I hope that they know that I want the best for them and that I truly do care for them. So I feel like kind of laying the groundwork first, it hopefully sets me up for success when conversations, need to be had.
Yeah. So let's talk about the mechanics of how you actually do that, because I do believe that is a skill that people can learn and develop. And it's something that a lot of people think they are just born with or not born with. And I think that is a very limiting self-belief that isn't actually helpful. So what are some of the things that you do to connect with their hearts first?
Well, so, I joined Fay. I'm going into my third year at Fay, and I came from another private school in the Houston area. I got a different part of town, so not necessarily a, quote, competitor. And that school, I've been there for a really long time. And so you have the luxury of knowing grandparents and knowing the names of their pets. And so there really was just history with a lot of these students. So coming to a new environment, a new culture, it was good for me, but I was a little nervous because I had to reestablish and just start off new with connecting with families, but also too, it was a great challenge. And so, I think my goal coming into this new environment is, this is, again, a new culture. It's a new family. I need to put aside my agenda. I need to put aside my little to-do list of what I feel like I need to do and make sure that I'm pleasing my direct reports, to kind of really just put that aside and just stop, just take a breath. And this is a longer breath, as in, I wanted to give that full year of just getting to know the kids. And there's plenty of time when we need to look at handbooks and we need to look visiting, managing behaviors and all that kind of good stuff. There's time for that. But I really want to make sure that I'm putting in the investments in getting to know these kids. And so what does that look like? Obviously, with our families coming from all over the city of Houston, which is the fourth largest city in America right now. It's difficult, but it's to spend time in the classrooms. We do follow the responsive classroom with our SEL component. So joining the morning meetings, going out to the recess and just playing ball, just being present, I think, bottom line, whatever that looks like. Again, morning meeting, just popping into class, just knowing that I'm here with you and asking questions and listening and making little notes about this student. I didn't want to hear too much about a student's reputation from last year because I didn't feel like that was really fair to the student. I wanted to come into this. It's a new school year. I wanted to come in with a clean slate, an empty template, if you will, on that child, and really give every child the due dignity of just getting to know them for who they are, and not because of based on past reputations. Mm-hmm. So I think it really was just being present and asking questions. And I think that really, of course, then COVID hit. So that did kind of rock that boat a little bit.
Yeah. We all felt that.
Yeah. So but that was the premise of coming into this new environment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So a couple of things that you said that I think are really important. Number one, being present. And that is something that is so challenging in today's world, especially in dealing with people, is that it's easy to be distracted by other things that are going on and other things that could be drawing our attention. And when you are present with someone, they can really feel that, and they can really feel that you care about them individually. And that's saying something in today's day, that you care and that you're present with them. So tell us a little bit more about what that means when you are present with kids.
It's really, for me and my personality, I tend to, I want to go, I want to do, I want to move. And so it really, over the years, this is an area that I've really had to work on, to be honest, as far as really calming myself and really locking in and being present. And so what that means, again, is just whether it's attending a morning meeting or being at recess or my laptop, I tell teachers, I'm going to pop into your classroom, but I'm not observing you. And that's not my job. That's not my role. My role is to observe the students, look for dynamics, but also to be present. So I could really literally just be over there working, but and the teachers here have been wonderful. My administration has been wonderful, knowing and been very accepting and open, allowing me to come into their realm and just being present. And again, hearing little conversations with the kids or hearing jokes or and while I'm working. And so that's another, I feel like, trick that I've been able to utilize too, is just working in their classrooms and just revolving, popping in and out. Again, whether it's out on the playground and playing with them, whether it's the Gaga pit or whatever that may be. And obviously I have the luxury of teaching our outdoor education program. So I am out there, of course, in the classroom too, if you will, outside listening and just joking with them and just being present by listening to them. And also too, I think it's through time, right? You need to learn. We're all different. And how I work with you is going to be different than how I work with somebody else. And so you're trying to read the students too. And some students, you kind of have to earn the right to where it may take time for them to open up their world to you. And so it's trying to read the students to say, okay, now this student is a little hesitant or a little shy, and so I'm not going to be overly imposing on them, and give them time to invite me in, and then looking for those opportunities. And I've had that here where I'm like, okay, that's a win, because a student just shared with me what their favorite lunch is, and that's a big win. But it might have taken 4 or 5 months, where some kids, you feel like you've known them forever, and you can immediately have that connection. So again, it's trying to read the students too, as far as listening and being present. And it's not just, here's my objective and boom, overpower them. And when they're willing to let you in.
Yeah. I think that's really good. So you mentioned that you teach the outdoor education program, and that is something else that I know you do to build relationships, that when they interact with you there, then they get this extra opportunity to see you not just as a disciplinarian, but as someone who is teaching them something, and that you're outdoor, you're doing fun stuff. there. So tell us about that outdoor education program, because that is one of the most awesome things about the Faith School.
Yeah, we're blessed. I mean, we, as you saw on our campus and you walked our forest, we have about 3.5 acres of forest that sits on the banks of the Buffalo Bayou. And so that's an amazing testimony to our founding matriarch, if you will, that started our school. And so we want to leverage that space. And so we kind of leverage the outdoor eds. Yes, there's some objectives we want to do. We want to build obviously curious students, lifelong curious learners about nature and how to preserve it and how to care for it and be good stewards. We know that so many of our families are international families, and so we want to teach some of those basic principles to that if they move back to their homes or wherever they may go, that wherever you are, to have a respect for nature and to be a good steward of that. But one thing that I've been doing this year, being more intentional, kind of getting back to your building that relationship, is I start all of my outdoor ed classes with some form of team building. So I want to be able to put them in fun, but somewhat challenging experiences, challenges that are age appropriate. And I don't tell them a whole lot. Here's some basics, and then just to watch them, and the teachers are watching how they problem solve, how do they work together, how do they cooperate together, who's assertive, who is kind of stepping back a little bit. And then we meet back the power of the circle. After that activity, we'll meet back together in the power of the circle, and then we reflect on that. What did you notice? What did you hear? What did you see? Teachers, what did you hear? What did you observe? And we get the students talking about that. And again, we just kind of always go back to that and say, that's life. Life presents us problems, and we can't do life alone. And we need each other. And so did you notice that? Did you see that? And so that's really a special time that we've really been putting in this year. And it's been really beautiful just to hear from the mouth of our students what they're experiencing and seeing, and things that I never would have seen without asking those, right? And so we do that. That's kind of our ritual before we go into our outdoor ed. And then I'll somehow, we'll follow that in, just like you went through that spider web challenge. The next challenge we're going to do is whether that's learning about predators and the life cycle or biomimicry and, all that kind of good stuff. So it kind of sets us up for our actual nature, conversation.
Yeah, that's awesome. So tell me more about the power of the circle. What do you mean by that?
So that ties into our Responsive Classroom is the company that we hired to train all of our teachers on the SEL, social emotional learning component, right? So that's the lens of how we operate as a school family. That's putting the student at the center of all that we do. But we realize that the power of circle is inclusive. Everybody has a voice. Everybody is seen. Everybody is basically sitting equal. There's not somebody that's sitting behind somebody, so we always, so in our morning meetings, every grade, if you walk in the mornings and you pop into a classroom during the morning meeting, everybody's sitting in a circle. And ideally, that's what we want as a faculty when we have our faculty meetings, is sitting in a circle where, again, every voice is heard, everybody has been acknowledged, everybody is seen. Because unfortunately, sometimes in schools, especially in middle school, it's the wallflower. I was never seen. I was never validated. I was never heard. And so that's kind of how we combat that.
Yeah. And I think that's so important, because if you don't feel seen, then it affects everything else that goes on. Because, speaking personally, I didn't feel seen in my schools. And so I knew I could get away with stuff. And so I, one, did things to be seen because I wanted the attention. And two, I figured that I wasn't seen, and so I could do things that were inappropriate and not smart because I figured nobody was seeing me. And that made a big impact on how I chose to do school, which was not how most people would want me to. And I'll leave it at that. The last question I'd like to ask you, Ross, is what is one thing a principal can do this week to be a transformative leader like you?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. I think my knee-jerk response to that is it's so easy to go down your checklist for the day, and I've got to get, whether it's in a public school setting or a private school setting, I've got my agenda. I need to get through this. whether it's a meeting after a meeting, or sometimes, my world another parent conference or whatever that may be, but really just to prioritize that the whole reason we're here, and that hopefully this is a calling, is to put the child first, put the student first. And so carve out time, and if you need to even schedule a time in your calendar to go, if it's okay with your teachers, and I get that it may not be, maybe a little intrusive, but whether that's going out to the recess field or going into the classroom and finding something to be present and connect either with a child or children, or especially a child that may be that wallflower, and to intentionally have a conversation and maybe write a couple of notes, because we never know what our children are coming from as far as what their home life is like. And oftentimes our schools can be the most calming place that they can be, and the most predictable, consistent things in their lives. And so I would say just take a time out from your personal agenda and try to be present for the students that have been given to you.
Yeah, I like that. I think that's really good advice. Thank you so much, Ross, for being part of Transformative Principal. Great to talk to you. And thanks for taking the time to be with us today.
Oh, Jethro, my honor, truly. And thank you for asking.